Hello and welcome to Get In Tune. Today I got a really fun guest I've been wanting to talk with Wyatt for a while. I'll introduce him in a moment, but let's start how we always start and start with the intro. All right, so I just want to get right to it. No little talking right now. I want to bring on our guest. He's a writer, he's an artist, he's a rightist. His name is J.M. DeSantis. Let's bring him on.
All right.
Hello.
Hello.
How you
How's it
doing
going?
tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited. I've been excited. We had to reschedule because of some stuff previously, so I'm glad I was
Right.
able to get you back on.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, I wanted to make it. It was
yeah,
kind of inconvenient time, but
yeah. It was a poor time.
yeah.
Before we begin, and we start chatting. I want to put up your your contact info so people can look you up.
Right.
After the show, by the way, please don't leave the show right now.
Yeah.
But JM here has Twitter. He has actually, was it one Twitter? Yeah, you have two
No,
Twitters and two
two
Instagrams.
today's, yeah.
And a website, Darkfire Press, which he is the owner and publisher of.
Yeah.
So let's start with a little bit of your background. What led you to like the comic industry? Were you always a comic fan? Did you kind of fall into it? What was it that got
Um,
you into comics?
well, that's funny. It's because it's a little bit of both. And I think I've told this story a few times, but it's always worth
Hmm.
telling again. I mean, I grew up, yeah. I was never into the traditional uh, superheroes. I mean, I had an interest in Batman and Spider-Man and the X-Men, because I was growing up in the 90s. Um, but I was always more of like a Ghost Rider guy. I got into Spawn when Joe Madureira was doing Battle Chasers. I got into that. Crimson was another one I really liked. And yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the 90s, right around the time that Marvel did the whole like onslaught thing.
Okay.
Is like when I just was like, you know what? Spawn was, and I have so much respect for Todd McFarlane, but I was getting bored with it because
Hmm.
I felt like Spawn was just constantly whining about Jason Wynn and like wanting to kill him but can't, and I was just like, Joe Mad was never getting his Battle Chasers issues out, and yeah, I got tired of comics and I left it
Hmm.
until probably my um, what was it, second or third year in college. I met guy that used to work for Marvel. He did some more small work and fill-in work. Floyd Hughes. I don't know that he usually published under the name, but um, he kind of showed me. I mean, still, when you think of it, except for Battle Chasers and Crimson, I mean, Ghost Rider and Spawn still kind of fit the superhero thing. And he was kind of showing me stuff like Alan Moore, introducing me to Hellboy and such, and then I kind of saw, okay, well, I don't have to do superheroes because I had been like out of the superhero thing for the longest time.
Hmm.
Um, and then yeah, that's kind of what led me back, and it's been a little bit up and down. There was one time I almost left comics because I was only planning on doing a couple of things, and then yeah, I met up with the Comic Book Artist Guild at the first. I don't. They're not really around anymore, but
I spoke to them. I think when they were first starting up years ago.
right. Well, Keith Murphy. Now he goes by KJ Publishing. Well, KJ Murphy for his published work. He runs Guildworks Productions
Okay.
with Hector Rodriguez.
Yep.
Actually, Keith did some work for me recently for one of the projects I want to talk about, Chadiana.
Okay.
Um, he, I mean, he started the guild long before I had come along, but yeah, he was involved. Mark Maz, who does Atlas Unleashed now.
Mark Matz,
Um,
a friend of mine
yeah,
here. Yeah.
yeah, he was like basically the head editor at the time. So when I met up with them, I started doing some comic work, and um, it kind of fell in through from there. I started getting just more comic work, and then the career just kind of started that way in the industry, you know. Because originally, and you know, it's I guess it's worth bringing up because I have at least one project to talk, well, two. I wanted to do novels and children's books and illustrate them. I didn't really want to do the comic thing, even though I had a couple of projects in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I guess you know, I just kind of fell into it. Um, so yeah, I know that's kind of like a long, all over the place story, but that's kind of how it's been with comics. It's like it hasn't been like necessarily the focus, although now with Chadiana it is a little bit more. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, I keep getting brought back into it, and I do like the medium. I mean, I have a lot of appreciate. I think it's um, when I was first starting out, I think I underestimated it more. But you know, I've always appreciated it for the fact that you know you can bring the writing and the art together, and you know, kind of have these two things working at the same time. So I think part of the challenge is too. It's not you know, just as an aside, um, comic readers know how to read comics, and anybody that's kind of new to the medium doesn't always. There's kind of like a language to it, you know, and people that read it for the first time sometimes don't know all the nuance that goes
Yeah.
into it with the timing and everything. And I think sometimes that for new readers it can be a little bit of a jarring experience until they get a little bit more used to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And let me just understand because I forgot if you said. I know you talked about it, but I forgot exactly your word you used. So I just want to. You wanted to always write, be like a writer, correct? Is that what you're
Well,
saying before you got into comics?
well, so when I was a kid, I did. I mean, I did have a superhero, and I did want to get into comics then. But
Mm-hmm.
about high school, I started getting more into video games, so I wanted to go into that industry. Actually, I majored in computer animation in college when I
Okay.
went to Pratt. Um, but yeah, writing was always something. I guess like late high school, I started taking my writing more seriously, and by the time college hit, um, I didn't want to move to California to do the video game thing. So like novels were kind of what I was focusing on doing. I was just on JD Calderon's podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I posted on my Instagram. Um, I wrote a novel when I was in college, and I said it to him, and when I posted on Instagram, it was like 180,000 words, like a bunch
Wow.
of Moby Dick. It was,
Jeez.
yeah, it was,
That's ambitious.
yeah. My commitment was to write about at least a paragraph a week, and I usually I did more.
Yeah.
But Pratt was always working me so hard with the art stuff that I kind of needed this other. Oh, hey, Sorella, my cat. Uh, she'll just come in and out, you know, because she's
It's
always
okay.
curious. Just
I have a
going
cat.
nuts.
I have the door closed right now. He's my cat's with my wife. So
I don't have that option. I kind of have this open floor plan here.
yeah.
But yeah, where was I with that? Crap, I lost it. Sorry.
You were talking about you were just on the podcast and you
Oh,
were
right, the 180,000 word. Oh, right, yeah. So often I wrote more than like a paragraph a week, and I think I finished it in like 2.5, 3 years.
wow.
Um, yeah, I just needed I needed I was already taking the writing more seriously, but I needed another creative outlet because I
Yeah.
still had the juices going, but I didn't want to draw any more than I mean, at Pratt, especially the first year, they worked you so hard. You
I
know,
know.
you just
I have
like,
friends who are graduates of Pratt. I I know what it's like.
yeah, they have a famous, well, infamous like first year. It's like I think there's like a 50 or 60% dropout because it's just
Wow.
like, well, yeah, some kids, of course, like transfer schools. They don't just like
Yeah.
leave
No.
college, but it's like, yeah, they don't have a. I think that's the point. They want to like see who's serious and who's going to make it. And I'm
Yeah.
stubborn, so it's like nobody's going to tell me no. You
Exactly.
know? Yeah.
Um. And just quickly to, since we talked about some of the comics that you liked, what were some of the books that influenced you to become a writer? Like, who were the writers that influenced you?
Okay. Well, I mean, if I mean, I can't speak for my childhood because I mean it was like all over the place. But if you want to talk about like the two books that I was in high school, one I had to read for school, honestly, and I still loved it.
Hmm.
And the other one I read on my own was so it would have been Crime and Punishment by
Okay.
Dostoevsky and
Mhm.
The Hobbit by Tolkien. So
Yeah.
yeah, and that's I mean I was already familiar with The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings from the cartoon
Yeah.
films.
Bakshi and Rankin and Bass ones. Yeah.
Right, yeah, because Lord of the Rings, the films came out when I was freshman in college. So, um, but yeah, that was my literary introduction to them. I was already familiar with it before, but I haven't read them. Um, yeah.
I just want to say we got a message from, and I sorry if I mess up your name, Angela Bergeron. She says, "Hey, hey, hope everyone's safe and well."
Oh,
So
well, yeah, you too. I definitely. Well, I mean, it's a good time to mention. I've been wearing my masks and everything, but I also have some that I designed on my own. So,
that's awesome. Cause
yeah.
the first time I met you, that's kind of how your mustache looked, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of yeah. Right. That's the gentleman Cthulhu. Sorry, I'm going the wrong
Yeah.
way. His tentacle mustache. That's one of the masks I have.
Hmm.
It's on my Redbubble store.
Cool.
So yeah. I used to do the curly mustache. I did that only for. It wasn't even a full year, but I think it was such an iconic look. There's people that knew me even before I grew that out, that's how they remember
And
originally meeting me.
I gotta be honest,
You
there are
know?
times, unless I see your banner at a show, sometimes I don't recognize you because that's how I knew you
Right. Yeah,
for so
no, and
long.
it's so funny because it really was such a I still have so when did I shave that off? God, that was like 2014, 2015, and I teach at a high school. I just finished my seventh year. I
Yeah.
still have students that ask me, when are you going to grow the mustache back out? Like, and it's like, how do you guys even remember that? Um,
Angela says, "Don't worry, you're not the first to say my last name wrong. All good. Did I say it incorrectly?
is it Bergeron? Because
Bergeron?
I'm thinking like, yeah, Bergeron, like, yeah, Bergeron. That's what
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't
Well,
know. So
if
it
I
looks
did,
like,
I do apologize. I'm. It's always been one of my um, weaknesses, I guess. Like I'm great with faces, except when you shave your mustache. I'm fantastic with faces,
right.
but it's always I'm bad with names. I'm bad with how to say them.
I
But yeah.
am too. And, it's a funny thing talking about teaching real quick. This is a funny
Mm.
story. I've there was one time there were two guys that hang out all the time, and I called one by the other one's name, and he got so offended. Then I started using this little trick. I mean, we can't use it in the industry. That's the hardest part about it. But at the school, if I didn't remember somebody's name, I'd figure out from the kids what the teacher's last name was, and then I'd type their name into the email, like the email system, and get their first name that way. Because I'm terrible with names too. I'll remember people's faces. I mean, now I've been working with those people for years, so
Yeah. No.
anybody that happens to be watching this, don't worry, I know who you are. But yeah, I'll bump into people at conventions that maybe even if I knew them casually for 2 years and then they went away for a year or two, I'll bump into them. It's like I'll be dying because I know like knowing somebody's name is like it's really appreciated when you do, and
Yeah.
I always feel bad, but yeah, faces are easier for me.
Yeah. Same man. I think that's probably because you and I are both visual people, so we
Right?
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what though, even with and I'm surprised because I do read Tolkien, and there's like
Yeah.
thousands of names in that, but yeah, it's just
It's hard. I'll be honest.
yeah.
I've only read The Hobbit. I can't read any of the others.
Oh really? Oh
I
okay.
I grew up with a reading issue, and we didn't
Oh,
find out until later on, till like I was starting college, that actually I was photosensitive, and the way the fluorescent lights in schools were, it's like artificial sunlight, and so I'd read a book, and then the words would blur up on me.
really?
And and I'm like, I had trouble reading my whole life, and I didn't read The Hobbit until I was an adult. I just always
Wow.
wanted to. I love fantasy,
Right.
and when the movies came out, my girlfriend at the time gave me all the trilogy of Lord of the Rings, and I tried, and it was just too difficult. I don't know if I was on the reading level or what it was.
Yeah.
It was just so dense of writing, and all over the place that I finally said, I'm going to sit down one day when I was probably maybe late 20s, and I said, I'm going to read The Hobbit. And I
Right.
took it out of the library. I read The Hobbit. It was an easier read for me. I haven't had a chance to go back and read the trilogy because I want to now, but
Right.
but I do. I did eventually buy my own copy of The Hobbit, which is behind me somewhere.
Yeah. Well, actually, mine's right. So I should mention that I'm reading it again because Ian Holm had just passed away.
Yeah,
I was gonna start reading The Haunting of Hill House because I haven't read that yet, and I haven't watched the Netflix series, and I want to read the book
yeah.
first. But then, yeah, I've been dying to read Tolkien again, and I've read it so many times.
Mhm.
But yeah, I decided I've already read 15 books this year, so I said, what the hell? I'll
I
go
don't think
back to
I've read
Tolkien for a
15
while.
comics this year. And
Well, especially since the lockdown. I think 9 of them have been since the lockdown.
yeah, when the lockdown started, and I don't know if you know this about me, and I've shared on here. I didn't go anywhere. I have my own medical issues, so I played it really safe. And because
Yeah,
I'm one of the people susceptible, and I ended up getting COVID, and I spent a
I
month
didn't know
sick.
that. Oh
Oh,
wait, no, maybe
well, I posted a little bit
yeah,
about
maybe you
it
did
on
post
Facebook
it.
when I
Yeah,
started getting better. But yeah, I had, and it threw me off my work schedule. I wanted to read, I wanted to watch stuff, but my goal was, we're off. Let me start creating. I don't have shows to worry about. I don't have anything I'm really worrying about. Let me focus on building product. And and I got sick like right in as soon as kind of April started, so it really threw off my whole schedule. I'm just now starting to
right.
really
Well,
build up what I'm doing.
I'm well. Kind of to speak to you and to speak. So I've been talking to a lot of artists about this, and
Mm.
I had the same thing. Like, I'm good having my alone time. A lot of the time, I'm just home in the studio anyway. I got the cat for company. When
Yeah,
we went into lockdown, my school was going on a slightly limited schedule. I still had a. It was to my district's credit, they were really good. Like we didn't have too many problems.
yeah,
And I was used to using a lot of like Google Classroom and everything. But I figured, oh, I'm gonna have all this time to get this work done.
yeah,
And you just get well, I think it was a couple of things. School was really a little bit more challenging than I thought it was going to be, especially at first.
mhm,
Second, it just seemed like everything was just kind of falling apart and was
yeah,
so up in the air. You almost like didn't know what to do.
yeah,
And sometimes I can get a little depressed, and stuff. So I mean that certainly didn't help. And then there's also that other thing. I've said it to a couple of people just in emails back and forth, but like you ever see those movies where like, somebody quits their job to go write full time and then they can't get any writing done because it's almost like there's no structure and they have all this time so nothing
yeah, yeah.
um yeah, so I got a lot of reading and research done. Actually, I mean, I did as far as the like some of the books I read were for research, and I did do some important like world building stuff I really needed to do for the Chadiana series.
Which
I
we're going to talk about in a few minutes.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I guess I was just trying to say like even not getting COVID, which I was trying to avoid because, I have family members and my nieces, like I don't want anybody to get it. I'm not so worried as much about me as I am being a carrier and then spreading it.
Yeah,
So, although believe me, I don't want to get it either. It
yeah.
doesn't. I
It's not
know.
fun.
you're not the first person I know that got it, and a lot of people have said it's hard.
Yeah.
Um, it's and everybody has slightly different symptoms, but it still really knocks you out.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean I've tried to be um, careful about it, but yeah, what I was saying was even being healthy and
Mhm.
having all the time, I still and I've spoken to a lot of artists that have had this problem. Either they've been anxious, depressed, just unsure of things, especially with I mean, I don't want to get too political,
Yeah.
but with stuff going on right now, like some people are just having a hard time. And then it's funny, I'll see some other artist friends of mine that are like pumping out work like crazy.
Yeah.
And two of my artist friends, one of them that's working on Chadiana as well, I was saying to them, like, who's to say? I mean, because some people really thrive in chaos and they can just use their work to like get hyper focused, and
Hmm.
other people just need things to be calmed down before they can really concentrate.
I, I
And
understand.
yeah, not a I mean, we all have this similar thing with creativity, but everybody's got a different you
Different
know
way of attacking
yeah,
it. Yeah, I actually was talking to Ray Felix. I think you know Ray.
yeah, I
Um,
know, right? Yeah.
he told me I was talking to him today on my car ride home from my day job, and he told me he knocked out 7 issues of a book. I don't know if it was one book or if he just different stories. I forgot what he said. But during this quarantine time, he knocked off 70. I mean, this guy's a drawing machine. You
Oh my
know,
God,
I
I
mean,
didn't even know. I mean, like, and I don't want to say anything, whatever, but like I didn't even know like Ray had 7 issues of anything out, and he just
well, he's
I
working
know
on
he's done
stuff out.
Ground
He didn't tell
Zero
me the
for a long
titles.
time.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but I just want to say he didn't tell me the titles. I don't know anything. But he told me he has 7 issues. So I don't know if they're 7 different books or 3 issues of one book or 7 issues of one book. I don't know. But he said, yeah,
No.
I knocked off 7 issues since quarantine.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
see, that's what I thought I was gonna do.
yeah,
I thought for sure that's the position I was gonna be in, and
yeah.
yeah.
Um, but it's been great, like all this talking, but we haven't even gotten to like really any of your books yet, and I really want to
Oh,
talk
okay.
about your stuff. So, um, Chadiana, which you mentioned,
Right.
I have it written down next week, so I have to read stuff to do my best. Um,
No, it's okay.
and it's a
Yeah.
new mini series that you're working on.
Well, yeah.
Uh,
Okay. So
so
I
tell
mean,
me about it.
right. It existed before. I mean, anybody that knew the character will recognize that cover there.
Yes, I
Okay.
actually recognize. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it started in 2012. I mean, this was the original cover for it. Right?
Hmm.
She's a female Indian, well, Indian based. I mean, it doesn't take place in actual India, so
Hmm.
kind of like a uh, compilation of like Middle Eastern and South Asian cultures. But
Oh.
yeah, I mean, it's a dark fantasy series. It follows her. She's kind of this wandering assassin, almost Conan-esque, is how I originally like kind of pictured her. Very strong-willed, somewhat emotional, and I mean like, you know, but not, not in a negative way. The stories kind of follow her journey to kind of figure out who she is and
Mhm.
kind of come to terms with a lot of her past. Um, but then you have these like larger scale, almost like high fantasy like things going on at the same time. But I really like the horror stuff, so I would
Yeah. Now
consider it
that's
more.
actually
I would consider it more dark fantasy than high fantasy.
that's where you and I differ. I'm not a horror fan. I
Yeah,
appreciate the genre, but
right.
I don't know if it's my overactive imagination, whatever happened. Like I'll watch things with my wife, and I'm like, okay, it's still daylight. It's good. I can watch it. The second nighttime comes, I'm like, no, this isn't for me now. We gotta wait till tomorrow again. um, but
Well, part of what I grew up on, I mean, my parents had me watching some of the Universal horror films. I mean, from what I'm told, I didn't watch Dracula when I was a kid, but Frankenstein, the Mummy, Invisible Man, Creature from the Black Lagoon, like that was all my childhood
yeah,
for
and
parts of it.
I actually like those. Those are the horror movies I enjoy. I didn't like what came after in the 70s, 80s, the slasher stuff. I didn't like any of that, and that's what
Oh,
turned me off to the idea of horror. But
I could understand that. So, well, that's a little thing about me. I'm not. I mean, okay, I can enjoy a good slasher film, but I prefer classic horror or gothic horror. Like I love the Hammer films.
mhm,
Um, I mean, more modern stuff. I mean, I love Insidious. The Witch was great.
mhm.
You know, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not as big on the slasher films, and some
Yeah,
stuff gets too much for me.
yeah,
So I won't even bother with it.
yeah. We got a couple of
Me and some
comments.
other people. Hi,
First,
Joe.
yeah, Joe is a longtime fan of the credit chats that we do with Mike and the and my Get in Tune here. So thank you for
Yeah.
tuning in tonight. He's a graduate of the Kubert School, working on his own stuff.
Oh, nice.
Uh,
Yeah.
Angela just said also, thought I'd tell you I'm an artist and promoter and freelance photographer. That sounds like a lot of work to me, but
Oh,
if
she also said watch Boris Karloff, Black Sabbath. I've seen Black Sabbath. It's good.
I don't
I
know if I
enjoy it.
have. I got to
Yeah.
think. I got to look back
I
at it.
think it's 1960s, 1970s.
Okay.
But yeah. No, but I know what you're saying about the slasher films. It's
Yeah.
not as much. Well,
Yeah.
that's why I'm more into as far as like literary work goes, like Poe and Lovecraft.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually,
And I,
Robert E. Howard has a lot of good horror stuff too. Stephen King, Clive Barker does kind of fall a little bit more slasher, but I do enjoy his work.
okay.
But
Yeah. I've never read Stephen King or even Clive Barker, and that comes down to like my reading issues. I hated the idea of reading as a kid because I had all these issues, didn't know what it was,
right,
and I struggled a little bit in college, but I ended up loving it so much that when I was going for my batch, because I did an associate's and a bachelor's and master's in my bachelor's, I believe it was. I did a lot of like classical literature. I read Beowulf. I read all
yeah.
that stuff, and like my background's in mythology, folktale, folklore. Those are the type of things that I love.
Well,
And
funny thing, I do enjoy that stuff. I'm sorry to cut you off.
no, no,
So
no, go for it.
yeah, so here was a funny thing. I so Chadiana, and I want to talk more about her, but she kind of
Yeah,
connects to this larger fantasy thing that I've been working on for a long time.
yeah,
And the reason I read Tolkien was because it was for the fact that at least I could find at the time. I was trying to find like the source of all fantasy. Like I was obsessed with this for a while. So by the time I got to college, yeah, like not for school reading, I was reading a lot of mythology and medieval texts.
yeah.
In fact, I had some extra credits I had to take, and I had a professor of medieval studies, and I took an independent study with her, and we just sat around talking about Chaucer and stuff, like
See, that's
like an hour once a week, and it was great to get that extra like odd credit that I needed,
yeah,
But oh yeah, no, I half my bookcase is like full of that stuff.
yeah. I
I
have a
still,
shelf like all right. I don't know. You can't see it, but it's under
yeah,
the silverway. That's like my
right.
mythology shelf. I have
Oh, nice.
books on tons of different things there. And actually where my Hobbit is next to my Beowulf and other English poems. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I read the Seamus Heaney
mhm.
translation, which was really good. Yeah, though there are some that I haven't read for whatever reason. I always had put off reading Dante's Inferno. I've never read it,
Mhm.
and I haven't gotten all into the Welsh stuff yet. I have copies of the Mabinogion, but I haven't read it. But I have read the Kalevala, which is like massive.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
I'm looking for some of those. Like what I'll do sometimes, because I don't, I'll go on YouTube and type in audiobook like of a title or something, and I'll
Right,
find it and I'll listen while I'm in my studio doing work. And instead of a podcast, I'm just listening to someone read me a story.
right. Well, a lot of my friends that are even big like readers, they love audiobooks. I still want to read,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, I can see the appeal. They get through books quicker, and not to harp on it because I know probably a little issue for you, but I mean, it might be a great way to get through some extra books. Just
Yeah.
listening to them.
And
Audio.
that's what I do. I'll either be, because I got my laptop usually at the table next to me. This is my drawing table I'm on right now. But
Yeah.
and I'm hooked up to my Cintiq, so I could be animating, I could be illustrating, and I just throw YouTube up on there. And if I'm
Yeah.
here, I just here or behind me in one of my traditional stations, I throw those up, and I love them. I think they're sometimes more fun than podcasts because for
Yeah.
me, as whether I'm drawing a children's book, which I'm doing right now, comic, animation, I've always seen myself as a storyteller. I taught
Right.
visual storytelling for 16 years at a college. I actually developed the course for
Yeah.
the college. To
Right.
me, it's all about storytelling. And one of the things that I love about audiobooks, it's like listening to old time radio.
Yeah.
So, and it's something like my father would tell me, and it's so true. When he was a kid, he was born in 41. He would listen to like the Lone Ranger on the radio. There were no pictures of the Lone Ranger. Everything was his imagination at the time. So
Right.
if I was to say look at Lord of the Rings, or listen to a Lord of the Rings, I might be okay. Well, now Frodo is Elijah Wood and all these characters. Those are the faces I'm seeing. But if
Right.
I never saw those movies, they would be different characters in my head. So I try to listen to things that will spark my imagination as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's important. It's I actually encourage even artists, if you're not going to even be a writer, still read or watch documentaries or something, because
Yeah.
just anything you can get to kind of feed that imagination is really helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
Let's go to another
I'm sorry,
comment.
we keep
Yeah,
we
we sidetrack. You know what? But it's what I gotta say. I've talked to you. I don't know how many times at shows, and
right.
I never really got to sit down and just talk to you. It's always kind of like 5 minutes, like kind of
Oh yeah,
ask
no, that's
you some
true. But
questions.
yeah, I've told a couple of people now that have had me on shows, like I have a tendency to need to get reined in, because I'll just like go, and
It's
it'll be this long path to get back to where we need to
it's
be.
quite okay.
You
But
know?
Angela said yes. Poe and King books give you creativity and use your imagination, and also the original Grimm fairy tale book, which I have a Grimm fairy tale behind me too, as well.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's off there. I can't. I got a thick unabridged, so it even has because the original Grimm's fairy tale will have like multiple versions of the same story with just different endings or different changes. But yeah, I have one of those. Although I only read, I think I only got like a quarter through it.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's not that I'll drop a book permanently, but I'll get through and then I'll move. And,
Well,
you know,
I do the same thing, especially with a book like the Grimm fairy tales or a mythology book. It's like, oh, this is a great story. Well, I read this story. I'm going to take a break from this myth, or
right.
and like say I'm reading Greek, and let me go to Norse now, and I'll read it one or two stories from that, and then I'll go back to Greek, and you
Right.
know.
Well, I found an excellent book that I've been working on for like 2 years. It's Myths and Legends. I forget who the editor is, but I've been because it highlighted some other areas. I mean, it has Norse and it has Greek and Roman.
Yeah,
It didn't touch Egyptian, which I was kind of surprised, but it's got Native American in it. It's got African myths in it.
yeah.
It has Chinese myths on it, and this is stuff that I haven't really touched too much on my
Yeah.
own.
I just want to show you this. This is something many years ago at Barnes and Nobles. It's actually one of the Barnes and Nobles books. It's called Legends of the World, and it's just like what you're
Oh,
talking about.
that's
So,
cool.
like, it goes into uh, we got the Far East, so like Indian, the Middle East, Egyptian, Mesopotamia. Um,
Yeah,
we
I
got
only
Celtic
read.
legends, yeah, Balkans and Greece. So everything's like
Oh wow.
this is just a fun book I take to bed sometimes with me, and I'll read like a story at night or something. You know.
Yeah, well, I have read some Indian myths too. I mean, the book I have has it. I've read the Bhagavad Gita. I have a copy of the Mahabharata, but I want to read a trans. This is where I get really picky. I want to read because if I can't read it in the original language, right? I just want a translation. I don't want a retelling. And the
Yeah.
Mahabharata version I have is a retelling. And I've talked to people that are from the country, and they'll be like, "Oh, just read it," and it's like, no, 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 no. I
Yeah.
want I want it as close as I can get it.
I am.
Um,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah. So it's funny. I do. I mean, I've read retellings of it in short versions, but I would really like to get the whole thing. And I've read
Oops, I think you froze
the
for a second.
Ramayana.
Oh,
But yeah, yeah.
okay. You're there. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. Yeah, and that was there was another one that you mentioned in there. You were talking about Balkans, Indian. Oh, Mesopotamian. Yeah, I have read Gilgamesh.
Yeah, I have too. That's a great story. There's actually, and just because you were talking about it, there was I'm not talking about that particular book, but like just one of those older myth stories. I
Right.
was in my freshman year of college. I was introduced to the Panchatantra, so
Okay.
I'm looking for a good copy where the where the retellings aren't too different from
Right.
the story. Because I actually, for one of my first animations, I did. I don't know if you know the one that ends "Death pursues the meddling flunky. Take note the wedge extracting monkey."
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've actually did an animation for my 3D animation class of that story. And for you guys who don't know, I'll spoil the ending for you. The monkey's very curious, and they used to split logs by putting a wedge in, and he comes into this wood chopping village, and he looks at it and he pulls a wedge out, and his monkey hood gets caught between the snapping of the log.
Yeah.
And then the ending is death pursues the meddling flunky. Take note the wedge extracting monkey. So
Some of those old are pretty dark.
yeah, but it's over 2,000 years ago. I can't, obviously I'll never find or be able to read the Sanskrit version of it. So let me find something that's pretty good. But let's get back to Chadiana. I have a question about her. How, a lot of guys, when they create,
right,
they don't create female leads. They don't create, or they don't even create strong female leads. They usually go to men because that's what they know. What made you create a female character? Like, how did you come up with saying I want to make her female, and how do you write for a female character to keep her such a strong lead?
Okay, well, yeah, that's loaded. I don't get feedback though. I don't know if
hold on, let me try this. I have a fan on behind me. Maybe it's blowing. Is that better?
Let's see. I'm still getting it a little bit. Well, no, it's gone away. Okay. Yeah, I just didn't want it my whole answer to be garbled.
Yeah, no, I get you.
So yeah, so Chadiana. Okay, so why the female character?
Mm-hmm.
I'm still getting feedback. Oh God.
Let me try. You know what? I'm going to try one other. I have another fan. I'm going to turn in another. I don't have AC in my studio, so I get very hot.
I do though. I wonder if it's mine. I'm sorry. This is like the worst thing to start happening on a live show.
It's quite okay.
I mean, I have to take this out for a second.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Let's see if that works. Huh. No, I'm still getting it. Wow, that's crazy.
I'm not hearing anything, just so you know, so it could be a little feedback on your end. And
it could be. Yeah, it's just kind of distracting me a little bit. I wonder if I take... Oh, this is going to be... Let's see how this...
All right. Can you still hear me okay?
Yeah. Let me just talk a little bit. Let me just... Yeah, I think that you actually have a louder volume now than you did before.
I'm going to throw these away.
I stopped using my headsets. People who have been with us since the beginning know the first maybe 10 or 12 recordings I've done, I've had headphones in, but I feel we were starting to get feedback. Guests were telling me, and I found taking off my headsets, it was something to do with my headsets.
Well, it's funny. I have a mic, like an actual, with what is that? That felt sound.
Yeah. The oh God, what the hell? I have it behind me. Don't worry, I know the diffuser, the type of thing.
Yeah, well, and I've offered to use those on podcasts. They're like, oh no, you don't need it, And okay, well, I'm glad that this is coming up. So yeah, let's get back to.
Hold on, before you begin, I just want to say Joe said great advice. It's from 9:03. We're at 9:10 right now, so he probably was talking about when you said to watch documentaries and all that stuff.
No, it's really good, especially for people that don't want to sit through a whole, like, read a whole book of history. Like, documentaries are big. You know, even when I would read the mythology stuff, a lot of times they'll have like a 20-page introduction that just goes through the, kind of the history at the time. And those usually are pretty informative too.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, yeah.
All right, anyway, yes, back to Chadiana.
Why did I create her? Female character. Well, I mean, I'm told when I was a kid, I was really into Wizard of Oz. I don't know. Maybe because Dorothy was a character. I also, oh no, this is a funny story too. I was just talking to, I don't know if you know Chris Campana.
Who? Chris who?
Chris Campana.
Yeah, our paths have crossed. We've talked a few times, but I haven't had in-depth conversations with him.
Right. Well, he does a lot of. I mean, he has his own series. He has Chosen. He has. Oh God, I'm going to be terrible right now. Forgetting the main one. Oh God, that's what happens.
It's okay.
But yeah. Well, he First World. Wow. Yeah. But he does a lot of Masters of the Universe artwork too.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, okay, so my brother and I used to watch Masters of the Universe. And I don't remember this, but Mom tells me that story. And this might have had something to do with it too. My brother and I would watch Masters of the Universe, and then after we were done, we would beat the crap out of each other. I guess we'd be like, well, pumped up on testosterone. So eventually she was like, that's it. Done. You're watching She-Ra Princess Power, that was it. So, I grew up partly watching She-Ra. So maybe that had something to do with it. I do know that by the time I got into high school and I was starting to take the writing more seriously, separately, I had an interest in exploring more of a Middle Eastern setting for a fantasy book. And I did want to do a female character. I don't know why. I just felt like there's all these awesome guy characters, and it could have been Cher. I just wanted to be able to create a character that girls could feel about the same way a guy would be like with Conan or Aragorn or So yeah, I mean that was it. And then Angela's friends with Chris Campana.
He's
we've known each other a long time. So.
Yeah.
And I feel bad that I'm stumbling over some of the stuff. So yeah, and then I've always said it. I mean, this is from the newer, one of the newer books that I have out there.
Let me give you the screen so we can see it bigger and.
Yeah. This is like a short one that I put out, Chadiana, the Call of Fire. This is kind of kick off the next series that I'm doing. This is actually free to read on Chadiana.com, but you can get a full version. And this is the next issue that's coming out, is Chadiana Rekindled. That's actually KJ Murphy, Keith Murphy's cover right there.
Cool.
A watercolor piece.
That cover, is that the painting behind it, real quick? Or did I?
Oh yeah. So I threw up some of the stuff, and that's a Chris Campana print right there of Skeletor, because he does awesome Skeletors.
He does.
That's acrylics and colored pencil I do for my paintings.
Cool.
I do watercolors for the interiors.
Okay. So this is all really diehard traditional. You don't use a computer. You don't digitally do anything really.
Except for scanning and color correction, and then of course the lettering, which I hired Mindy Lopkin to start doing the lettering for Chadiana, and she's doing an awesome job. I wish that COVID hadn't delayed Chadiana Rekindled, that first issue in the new series, because it's beautiful. I have two other artists working on it too, and Jackie Musto and Dana Sanguir, and I just posted both of their artwork in the last 2 weeks on my Instagram.
I'll have to check it out. I don't know.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. So yeah, wow. I don't even think we're going to get to talk about anything else.
Well, we can look. I mean, normally I do about an hour, but I have no issue staying a little later and going.
I talk so much. Like,
It
you have
happens.
no idea. I was on George Medina's podcast, Catch the Craze.
I've been on a couple
And
of times too.
yeah, and we talked the whole time. There wasn't like a minute of silence. And I only got to like half the stuff. And me and George know each other. And I mean, I don't know Sam that well, but, George I've known for a long time. We were just laughing. I was like, you're going to have me on like 3 or 4 more times. Like, okay, so let's try to rein this back in because, like I said, I'll go. So yeah, and then I've always kind of, I guess, famously said this, like, so if I was going to do a female character, um, I wanted to. Well, when I did this painting, by the way, which was that was the original paint. This isn't the original, but that's the first one that I put. On the cover. I hadn't originally come up with an idea for Chadiana. It was just a painting that I put on my banner. But when I did the piece and I wanted to do more female characters, because up to that point in my career I hadn't, I just figured like everybody's doing white girls with big breasts and they're either blonde or brunette. And I was like, well, why don't I draw the type of girl that I'd be attracted to, which is not what is typically like your mainstream idea of beauty or whatever. Not saying that it's not. I'm just saying what's typical in the mainstream. So yeah, so I did this Indian warrior, and then that kind of sparked it too because I just did that painting. And people were asking about her, so obviously I did a nice enough job that it was getting some attention. That was at New York Comic Con in 2011.
Okay.
And I was going to do a different project, and then it was actually a graphic novel that I worked on in college because I wrote and illustrated a full graphic novel, plus wrote that 180,000 word novel. So yeah, I was going to redo that graphic novel, and I was getting so many questions about her, I decided to explore it, and then it just kind of grew.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was originally. So some people that may know the Chadiana series, and I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago on JD Calderon's station channel. I was doing a series with Rosarian Publishing, and we got 5 issues in, Chadiana and the Company of Shadows, which was kind of her origin story. It kind of saw her in a different kind of area. It was more of they were more in like an African landscape, and it was more, there was definitely more assassins, the characters wearing turbans, even her, like, this is basically the group that trained her. And it was her origin story. But I was having a tough time working on the series at the time, and it was disappointing to some degree. Me and Bill Campbell at Rosarian, we did, on good terms, we parted ways. He just decided that there had been too much of a lull in between the issues, and I was looking to kind of not restart it, but sort of restart it with this new series. So yeah, that's when I took it over to my my Darkfire Press company. Which like I was kind of, like I said, it was both ways, and it was on good terms. He didn't want to have to start publishing something that had a 2-year lull, and I didn't want to continue with the series because I kind of wrote myself into a hole with it with all the work.
Yeah.
Kittles.
I don't know. They're saying hi to me. It must be someone I know. I just don't know them by Kittles. So hello, Kittles. Thank you for tuning in tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, but so yeah, I will. So kind of, I stopped midway through Chadiana and the Company of Shadows. I am gonna get back to it. obviously it won't be with Rosarium, probably through Darkfire Press, because even though doing Darkfire Press was going to be kind of like the side thing, it's kind of becoming the main thing now.
And Darkfire Press is your company. You started
It's
as
my company. Yeah. I have something. One of the masks I did has the logo on it. Yeah, so you can see that there. Yeah, I mean they Darkfire Press I did for kind of do my my own work, kind of experimental stuff, and then I've been taking on some other people. Actually, George Medina that we just talked about, Luis Cruz, Anibal Arroyo, and actually George and Anibal are both from Mass Media. And maybe I think Bob Sedaro's coming on too.
I love Bob. Bob was on, like, was it last week or the week before? I gotta say he was one of my favorite interviews. It's just always fun to chat with Bob.
Bob, I even when he stops by my table at a convention, I always have a fantastic time with Bob. I've known Bob a long time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry because I feel like I'm going like in so many different directions now. So to rein it back in with Chadiana, which we started talking about a half an hour ago. The qualifier was kind of a one-shot thing I had done. Chadiana rekindled. I'm hoping to have out in the next month or two, and that's going to be the first issue of a new 5-issue miniseries.
Okay.
Rekindled will have 3 different short stories in it. I'm doing the art for one. Dana Sangrier and Jackie Musto are each doing one. Mindy Lopkins doing all the lettering. I wrote them all. And then the next 3 issues will be one of each of us is going to take a full issue story. It's all standalone. And then the last issue will be another 3 shorts, and then that's going to be collective.
And when you say full story, how many pages is a full story to you?
20 to 30 pages, somewhere in there. I think Dana's, for some reason I keep writing Dana the longest the longest stories. She's the one that wound up with I think a 16-page story in Rekindled, and she has like a 28-page story for her piece. But I worked a little bit with Jackie and Dana. I have this whole mythology and everything planned for the character, but I asked them, and this is something I've only mentioned briefly. I said to them, well, what would you like? I want to play to everybody's strengths. So what would you be interested in drawing Chadiana doing? And I will cater a story to like those things, because I wanted to get the best work I could.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love that thought process on how to, on how you work with them. Because
and it was good because they had they both wanted to do a team up story, and I hadn't even gotten to it yet. But there's 2 other female characters that at various times Chadiana kind of teams up with. So I was like, oh, great. So I'll have one of you do one, and I'll have one of you do the other one. And I was just going to do like a solo story with her. So it's funny, I didn't, jumping all over the place again, I didn't read Andrzej Sapkowski's, and I might be butchering that name, The Witcher, until just like maybe about 4 months ago or something. And the first Witcher book kind of does the same thing that I had planned to do with this. All the stories kind of jump around at different times in her overall arc. But I'm just kind of telling different bits of different parts. They're all standalone, and they will definitely refer to things in like the larger narrative. But I felt like it was a good way to kind of introduce the character and give like an idea of scope. Plus, for any like returning readers that did read the 5 issues of In the Company of Shadows, even though I haven't resolved that yet, there will be like some references to that in the book. So, it won't. It's not totally dead. Like I said, I am going to go back and finish it. I just would like to fix it up a lot,
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the list of things you present me. No, but that's
Right. I could probably go through them faster.
No. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Because we are going to move on in a second. I just like hearing about the stuff, though, the work process, the people that you're working with, because
Right.
even and by the way, Kittle said it's this girl Hope. She's a Kit's her internet name, but she's actually a 17-year-old girl I'm going to be starting to tutor this weekend. So I guess she was just watching.
Oh, nice.
She's a really talented artist, and I'm going to help her with some cartooning stuff. But
good
anyway,
luck. You've got a good teacher, Although I didn't learn from him, but still, I've seen the stuff he does, and it's.
No, but one of the things I liked is because a lot of people, especially who are just starting out in comics or want to learn about the industry, they think they have to do everything themselves. So it's nice to share that how stressful it is, because I'm one of those people who do a lot myself, and not because I don't want to work with people, but because I have a certain method in the way I like to work, and I also don't have the money to pay people right now.
Right. I don't. So the teaching job, does kind of fund it a little bit. I'm not going to lie, because when I said this on J.D. Calderon's, I never saw any money from when I was doing it, Chadiana with Rosarium. I was selling okay, but that didn't help either. So yeah, I'm funding a lot of the projects on my own, and I don't want to give my whole financial history and back, but when I say thousands, the Chadiana project right now is costing me thousands of dollars, because you got to pay. I mean, and I'm paying what I'm trying. I let the artist negotiate a page rate, because I couldn't pay industry standard, but I didn't want to do $50 a page, because that's not fair, And Mindy gave me a good price, but it's expensive. Yeah, so I totally understand. It kind of came out of necessity, because when I was looking at the fact that now I had been 8 years in, because I started Chadiana in 2012 with the one self-published issue, which was, again, this one.
Yeah.
And then I started Chadiana in the Company of Shadows in 2013 on the Chadiana website, which is chadiana.com. And then Rosarium picked up in 2014, and I did that through 2015, 2016. Now I was looking at 8 years into the series and having to almost wipe away a few years.
Yeah.
I was just thinking it was too overwhelming for me to think about just doing it on my own.
Yeah.
Now I kind of lucked out. I mean, Jackie expressed interest in Chadiana years before. She was working on a book, Lady Skylark, and she still does K&P, which is her webcomic. It's KAY and, the word and P, the letter P, .com. But she was doing Lady Skylark, which I really liked. And she took an interest in Chadiana back then. And Dana was a senior in high school, I think the first or second year. I'm sorry, Dana, if she watches. She probably will watch this, and she's going to be like, Mr. DeSantis, how'd you forget? I didn't actually have her as a student, because there's another teacher that teaches some of the upper classes. She was graduating, I think, the year that I came in as a teacher. And he was like, well, I don't do comics, so you see Mr. DeSantis. And I saw her work then in high school. I was like, when this girl is done with high school and, college, if she decides to go to college, I'm going to hire her to do something. There's no question about it. She was just that good. So, I lucked out that I already had two artists in mind that were they could definitely, do the work, because they're artists that I want,
Mm-hmm.
Wreck you. I'm sorry, I'm just reading that.
I don't. That's someone because I don't know that.
No, I have no idea. LV Recu.
I
I
don't know.
don't know.
It's got a picture of a cat though, so I'm okay with it right now.
Yeah, I mean, Cyrilla's out there now, but anyway. So yeah, yeah, and it's hard because I have a lot of artist friends, but like, well, I just showed you. I mean, I work traditionally, so I'm never looking for like a standard, like your typical American comic style. I want something that's a little different.
Yeah.
And both Dana and Jackie are able to do that. And, the other thing is too, of course, I want to give a chance to younger artists. Jackie's not a younger artist. I mean, Jackie's been around for a while. She might be about my age. I don't know. I would never ask. That's not proper.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, um, I like the idea of giving younger artists a chance, but also like since it is a female character, I like the idea of working with some female artists, because
Yeah.
they don't get enough. Actually, when I did this next series, I wanted it to be an all female book, but surprisingly, and if there's anybody watching this, I had a tough time finding female artists who would do interiors. A lot of them would do like a cover, which was fine, but 5 issues, I only got 5 covers anyway.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people would sign on to do interior illustrations, which was a little disappointing. So I figure in a future collection, I'll probably not do any of the artwork and try to like let it be an all female artist cast on it. But for this one, it's going to be what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with it. I'm not.
All right. Let's move on from Chadiana. Let's talk about Gentleman Cthulhu, which is a webcomic you're doing.
Right. I got 2 issues with me here.
Love it.
So,
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a webcomic on gentlemanCthulhu.com. That one's a little easier to do. I mean, it's 3 panels. It's all, just kind of comic strip jokes. When I did Chadiana and the Company of Shadows as a webcomic, I switched, and Rosarium picked it up. I wanted to still have a webcomic. I still wanted like a weekly webcomic going on. And I tried to figure out what I wanted to do with it. And I had this concept that I had wanted to do for a cover for Planet Lovecraft magazine, which is defunct, but they're now Strange Aeons magazine. But I wanted to do like this picture of Cthulhu in this Victorian suit, kind of sitting in an armchair reading a copy of Planet Lovecraft. So, yeah, when I was thinking about like a web comic to do after Chadiana got picked up, I thought, well, I could do this, and I think I made sure I had about 30 scripts done before I started doing. Like, I wanted to make sure I had at least enough to get me close to a year. And yeah, the publication of it definitely has been a little spotty after the first 2.5 years, but I'm still doing it. I'm technically on the 4th year now. In the middle of all this COVID stuff, I had a idea for have that over here. I am going to be doing a series of like Plague Doctor.
Let me give you the screen.
Yeah. I'll be doing like a series of like Plague Doctor, COVID, Gentleman Cthulhu comics. So, I have a dark, bizarre sense of humor. So it's just, but a couple of my fans were like, it's not too soon. Just go for it. So I feel like I'll be all right.
So moving on. I'm sorry, my phone just closed itself. Robert Phillips, you have a Lovecraftian novella So tell me a little bit about the book, but why you chose to go Lovecraftian style with it.
Right. So, and yeah, it is. I mean, it's short. It's not the 180,000 word thing I wrote in college, but it's all words. There's no
Yeah.
pictures. Um, well, I mean, Lovecraft. To say nothing of his personal life, because that's a completely separate issue. But as far as like his horror writing, it's funny because I didn't like it at first, but he really grew on me. And yeah, I mean, he's always been a horror inspiration of mine since I first started reading him in late college. And I did a lot of Lovecraft work when I started my career. Plus, I'm doing Gentleman Cthulhu. Actually, Robert Phillips, I originally wrote in 2008 when I was working for Planet Lovecraft doing stuff for them. Because I was still looking to do the prose stuff, but I hadn't gotten any published yet. But the novella was a mess. I remember because at the time I wasn't really into. I would write synopsises, but I didn't really do too much pre-writing, like plotting or outlines or anything. Because I never used to have that problem. Speaking of like when people were younger, like I always scored like really high, like top 10% in the country on essay writing, and I never had to pre-write. Like when I started writing, I was like, no planning needed. I'm fine. So yeah, but I remember like the beginning of the novel, like I kept changing the guy's major, like he kept changing majors in the story because like I kept changing my idea of what I wanted. But the second half of the novella was really solid. So, except for rather like certain things, like there's some letters in the second half. Instead of describing the content of the letters, I actually wrote out the letters. But basically, I rewrote the first half very heavily, did some key edits on the second half. But yeah, it was actually like 10 years in the making almost 10 years in the making, 12 to get the novel out. But yeah, it was something that was already there, just kind of sitting on a shelf. And last year I played a lot of catch up. I put out like 5 new titles. And this was one of them. And I was just like, yeah, well, I could fix this up and get it done. I think I spent a month rewriting it and fixing it up, and then it was ready to go. And I had Darkfire Press going, so I figured why not? Now I can get a novella out and finally have some prose work out there too. And here's the thing. It's not my favorite thing I've written. I think it's good. I think it's solid, but I get really good responses. Like I haven't had anybody say, they didn't care for it, too much. It's so I'm proud of it for being like a first prose publication for sure. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm sorry if I'm slowing down with the scatter. It's just because like I'm trying to make sure I stay focused so that I'm not telling like knock jokes and everybody's just like, what am I tuning into?
No, it's fine. Look, this is all interesting stuff to me because, like I said, excuse me, I don't really get to talk to you at shows. It's like few-minute conversations. We never ever had a chance to really talk in depth about work.
Right. So if I can still hear you. I'm gonna bounce for a sec. I'm just
so if we sidetrack for a few moments, it's not gonna bother me because that's how conversations go anyway. I mean, I may ask you a few questions about your work, but I really see this more as a conversation. Anyway, conversations naturally sidetrack. So,
right.
Were you going to say something, or?
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm sorry. So I forgot to plug this in, and because I'm rambling so much, my laptop's about to die.
Yeah, I've been there.
I had charged it before, So anyway, Twitch Prime. If you don't got it, you should get it.
I don't know who this person is, but it might be selling some ads now. I don't know.
Yeah, it's all right. Got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
No, what I never know what it's like for the viewer though. Like I'm having a great time. But somebody could be on here and just be like, "Oh my God! Like, can't he just focus and talk about what I tuned in for?"
I think they get more of an entertainment value out of this. You know, they laugh and like they're trying to talk, but they sidetrack. They don't know what they're doing. You know.
I do. There's a method to my
Yeah.
madness. You know, like,
Um,
I just
so
keep stringing you along, saying that I'm going to talk about something, and this is how I get you to watch for like 3 hours straight.
so let's go on to another book of yours. You have Ghosts Are People Too. It's a children's book.
Right.
Which,
Well, I figured this would be, yeah, I figured this would be good for your audience. So, Ghosts Are People Too. Actually, this is another older. It's an older work in every aspect. I think I wrote the original poem for it because I remember at the time I wasn't teaching yet. I was subbing for extra work and doing my artwork. And I remember one time at lunch, I think I went out into my car and I just started writing this people like, it started, I think, just like the book does, like Ghosts Are People Too. They were just like me and you, or something like that. And I just kept going with it. And it was entertaining enough that I was like, all right, well, let me try to turn it into a children's book. But I think it was like 14 lines at the time. And, like a children's book is like 30 pages. So I was like, all right, I got to work this out that it's long enough because I didn't want to shortchange it. And yeah, it was, it's funny. I did a whole dummy, dummy book and talking about Bob Sodaro. He and a friend of ours that passed away a number of years ago, Bill Baker, we went to the book expo at the Javits Center. And I was pitching it around to publishers. Like, people were liking it, some actually took the dummies. I mean, I never heard back. But then it's still, the response was good. And, sometimes, you do have to kind of take what you can get. If you're getting good responses, but you're still not getting any hits, you're still not doing too bad. I know, like, for any like new artists that are starting out, I know it can be discouraging. And when you're in it, it's much easier to say on the other side, and believe me, I'm not doing like fantastic. But when you're getting good responses, you're still not doing too bad. It can be frustrating where, like, you want to get this like hit, and you haven't yet. But yeah, I was getting good responses, so I knew I was onto a pretty good thing. I wanted to pitch it to Scholastic or something like that, but you need like an agent. Like, they won't take any unagented submissions. So eventually I had a publisher. Actually, I had two different ones that were going to publish it. One was a guy that I freelanced for, and I don't work with him anymore. We did. He's a good guy. He does a lot of good work. I don't want to say anything bad, but I don't think like we work well together.
I get that.
But, yeah. And then another publisher, they went under before it went to. It was like the proof copies were done. It was all ready to go, And then they closed their doors before it went to print. So it was another thing where it was like, well, I got Darkfire Press, and I've already put out like 2 other books. We're doing Ghosts Are People Too as well. Like, I'm not waiting on this because I even did the illustrations. I did the illustrations after I hit a point in Chadiana in the Company of Shadows back in 2013, but before I signed the publishing deal with Rosarium. So this would have been late 2013, early 2014. That's when I illustrated the whole book.
Okay.
And still it was like 5 years before it went to print. But it's nice. I mean, it's a fun, I kind of show you a little bit. I mean, like, it starts out.
Let me give you the screen again.
Yeah. I mean, it starts out where the ghosts are, kind of scary and, but it starts becoming kind of like this silly thing where it starts talking about, how if they were still, alive, they'd be doing all the things that, people do, it's just that, they're dead, so they don't really have a choice, like kind of the way they are. But then, they kind of start getting more humanized. They kind of start, instead of being like those ectoplasmic little blobs, they start getting a personality, you know. And yeah, it's a really fun book. It's another one that I get like good responses on. Funny thing though, like children's books are not as easy to sell. Like Robert Phillips sells really well. My comics sell really well. I don't want to like downplay it, but like it is so hard. You would think it would be easy, but children's books don't always get don't they're not as easy to get people to pay attention to.
Are you talking about that? I'm sorry.
I'm
I think
sorry?
I can get that going. Do you feel that way at comic book conventions or just in general for the sales?
Just in general for the sales. Just being perfectly honest. Robert Phillips. Both books are both available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and all of my books. You can go to my website, DeSantis.We, or you can go to Darkfire Press, which is in the description. It's coming by right now. And you can get all the books. It has links to wherever they're available. Both are on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. And Robert Phillips has reviews on both Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and people buy it, whether I'm promoting it or not. Ghost of People too. I think it only has one review on Amazon, and yeah, the sales are not as they're not as big as I get off of Robert Phillips. I had just to put a little feather in my cap and toot my own horn a little bit. It was partly because I had a contact, but I had a book signing at a Barnes & Noble in Princeton, New Jersey, for Robert Phillips, which was nice. I know they want me back. I keep meaning to hit them up, but right now I'm not doing any conventions, let alone book signings.
Conventions right now.
Yeah, well, Baltimore. Okay, I hate to call out a specific convention on publicly like this, but Baltimore is the only one that I've registered for that still has not canceled or rescheduled.
Which Baltimore show is that? Is that not one of the? Is that the Baltimore Comic Con or?
Yeah, Baltimore Comic Con.
So I know
I'm surprised.
Small press shows out there too. So
yeah, they do have small. I do want to get into some of those as well, but I had a big, because Chadiana Rekindled was supposed to come out this year. It's still going to come out this year, but it was supposed to be earlier this year. And I was going to put out at least 3 of the 4 other issues this year. I had a 13 convention, publicity, promotional, schedule going. And I was going to do another Barnes & Noble showing, try to get at some other bookstores locally, obviously, I'm doing some of these podcasts and interviews and stuff like that, which is helping. But yeah, I was going to be doing a big promotional thing. So out of 13 shows, only 1 was pre-COVID, right? So I did do that show.
Okay.
But 11 other shows have canceled or rescheduled, and Baltimore Comic Con, it's the one.
That has.
And I'm just sitting here come on, guys, because I'm really not going to do the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Listen, it's a little scary right now to do shows and stuff. I know things are opening up, and Mike, who I do the in-credit chats with, we usually do talk to our guests about what he thinks happening with cons and stuff are going to happen. And, I don't want to get into that tonight because I have my personal feelings about it. I really don't see things changing for a while. I don't see shows coming back until, honestly, maybe spring, summer 2021. So,
yeah, no, I'm 100% with you on that.
Yeah, and any shows that are going on right now up until December who haven't decided to cancel, I think are going to get very low attendance, and I think are going to have people backing out because people are afraid of things right now. They don't want to, they don't want to test the waters. Let things get settled and get understood better before these things happen. And I'm sorry, I'm hearing a little scratching somewhere. But yeah, I mean, but that's my feeling on cons. We put on our own show, our Incredicon.
Yeah.
We don't know if we would like to come back in October for our October show. We don't know if that's going to happen.
Oh, right. You've asked me to do that show.
Yeah.
I gotta.
Well, when we come back officially, because I'll tell you right now, even if Incredicon does happen sometime in maybe a smaller show in the spring, in the summer or fall, or we can do our mall show in October, I'm not going to be there. I'm just letting you guys know that right now. Mike already knows I'm not going out. I have my medical stuff. I have a lot to think about, but I've also seen cons being closing down as a blessing in disguise. I literally do close to 30 shows a year running kids sessions with Mike. I don't have time to build my product.
Yeah.
And I'm using the time right now. I have a children's book which you just discouraged me on. No, I'm kidding.
No.
It
could just be me. Maybe, maybe
but
because I do so much more dark stuff, everybody's just like, children's book.
Kids like to be scared. Think Edward Gorey, his stuff was
right.
Kind of kid friendly-ish, but still kind of dark.
Well, this actually isn't a scary book. Believe it or not, it's not. It's but yeah. Sorry, continue.
No, it's okay. I have a comic and I have a prose book I want to do. So I have all that. I'm looking to kind of go the same method you have with self-publishing. So there, hold on. Angela says there might be or no show in November in Massachusetts. Well, I personally think by November we're going to be quarantined again in this area. So
yeah, I'm sorry. Where are you again?
I'm in
New Jersey?
New York.
You're in New York.
I'm literally 15 minutes from New York City.
Okay, yeah.
So I was the freaking epicenter here of everything.
Yeah, no, I'm in Bergen County, New Jersey, and I mean, we're having our own thing. I mean, thankfully, our governors have been pretty good about keeping things. I mean, well, Governor not to get like into the politics thing, but Governor Murphy opened a whole bunch of stuff out, and I hate to say this, I'm going to be a little controversial. All these idiots are going out and like getting in huge crowds, and now he's almost like a father coming in, and it's like, well, you know what, I gave you an opportunity, gave you a little bit of freedom, and you screwed it up. So now that's it. We're grounded again.
I actually have been in Jersey a few times over the last month to see a friend of mine who's an artist. I won't mention his name right now. He doesn't like to be mentioned on air. But we would go through like a drive-through somewhere and park our cars and literally sit in our cars and have lunch together.
That's cool. That's nice though.
Yeah, so it was nice, and we were able to do stuff like that. And I did it about 2 or 3 times, and if I didn't have to, pay for the George Washington Bridge, or I didn't have my camp job that I do, that's my day job during the summer. I run an art department for a camp. I would probably go over more, and hang out and stuff. But yeah, I know, again, sidetracking here. But let's do, because what time we're at? We're at 1 hour and 23 minutes. I kind of don't like to go past 1 hour and a half, but I will if we need to.
No, it's okay. You can always have me on again too.
I will be happy to. I've had a blast chatting with you, and it'll take us 1 hour and a half just to get to one title anyway. So
I'm sorry. I'm usually not as bad as I was tonight. Maybe it's because maybe we need to just talk more at the convention.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to let you pick from the list. What is for the last topic that do you want to talk about today? Of your work. You gave me a list of things. You have the Tainted Ones, the Kirkland Horror, Fenwick's End.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, I could probably do it. I mean, the Tainted Ones is just like another Lovecraftian, but it's more kind of gothic horror, action-based.
And that's your art in there?
Yeah, this is my art. It's all black and white. I wanted something that was short and cheap, so that anybody that came to my table, or even on Comixology, it's like 99 cents. And everybody's got a different a different financial situation, but you can afford a 99-cent.
Yeah, let me.
I just figured it was something that anyone could just have something that, I wrote and did the artwork on, and they could just have a quick story. It's got a nice twist at the end. Actually, Mindy Lopkin, who I mentioned as the Chadiana letterer, she also lettered this. So yeah.
Let me. Do you do when stores are open? Do you do a lot of comic book store appearances or?
No, that's something I've been kind of. So I think now that I did the Barnes and Noble signing, I'm going to use that to try to get into more. There are so there's Spider's Web.
Oh yeah, in Yonkers, that's the store I go to.
Paul, yeah, I mean we seem to have a pretty good relationship on Instagram. I don't think I've ever been into their store though, because I'm in New Jersey. I don't, but I really would like to do it. I've never been against it. I just don't think I've ever had some. Oh, thank you. Yeah, sometimes I prefer the black and white too, Angela. I just. Yeah, I mean, I've been to other people's signings and stores. I would love to do it. I just don't think I ever. For a long time, I was doing so many I don't want to knock this. I would do short pieces and anthologies, so I didn't have too many books of my own out to really go to a shop with.
Yeah, one of the things. The reason I'm sorry to interrupt. The reason I'm recommending that too is I think if you would go on like a weekend when it's busy, or even on New Comic Book Day on a Wednesday, that type of stuff would sell. And speaking of the Spider's Web, that is a fantastic store to be in. And I'm not pitching it because Paul's an awesome guy who owns it, and it's the store I go to, and I buy all my books at. He really is a fan of comics, independent comics. He really promotes that stuff. He loves working with people who are independents and trying to make it in the industry for the love, just because they're doing it for the love of making comics. And maybe they're trying to build a business and make money, but you're making it out of passion for your love of comics.
So I've heard that there's a lot of that kind of scene also in Massachusetts. And I love doing the Boston Comic Con, and honestly, I mean, I know I'm from New Jersey. I know New York's right over there. Boston's my favorite city in the U.S. Hands down. So I would love going up there. And actually, through some of the shutdown, I also got through a certain means. You never talk about this stuff publicly, but Jen King over in at Space Cadets in Texas. Yeah, but I mean, that's such a trip, But yeah, I am finding more and more. I mean, of course, it's easier for me to do a signing at a local place. Yeah. But I mean, for anybody that might be feeling discouraged, I am finding it's certainly not every comic book shop, but there are comic book shops out there that are actively looking for independent stuff. So I do want to, it's good you're mentioning it, because I certainly, obviously, the way conversations go with me, you can see how sidetracked I can get with stuff. But I do want to start getting more into especially having Darkfire Press, just building more relationships with individual stores, and making appearances where I can. I don't have the money to be flying out all the time, so sorry, Jen, I don't think I'm coming to Space Cadets anytime soon, but it's definitely. Well, I did comment on the Spider's Web, one of their posts, that as soon as things do open up, I plan on stopping in the store.
And let me know when you're going to do that, because I'll meet you. Maybe we'll hang out for a little bit or something.
No, definitely. And then we can get some of this pre-show stuff out.
Because his store is literally like a 10-minute drive from my house.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
I could be there 10 to 12 minutes depending on traffic lights, So it really, to me, it's the best comic shop in Westchester. One of the things that he did was he and you could see it, he's probably like one of the cleanest comic shops I've ever been in, but it's kind of has like this almost Midtown Comics feel, but smaller, where it's just everything's clean. It's got this nice organization to it. I've been in shops where like you want to look at a book and you move it and it's like you have to blow dust off of it. He's like you're
gonna. I guess I've been in shops like that. Yeah.
Hold on. Angela says I go to ScareCon, Super Mega Fest, and Northeast Collectibles Extravaganza Comic Con. I've honestly never been to any of those, but I've wanted to go to Super Mega Fest and I've wanted to go to the Northeast Collectibles.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Angela. I'm copying and pasting this into a Word document.
Yeah.
And I will try to put it on my list for 2021 or whenever, the apocalypse is over, and I'll try to make an appearance. I'm always looking for more shows. I mean, I say all the time, please give me recommendations because
I'm in the process for myself looking not to do less shows, but maybe not to always be doing the kids stuff. I'll come in, even if my business partner Mike is running the kids section, I do an artist table, I'll come in and do a kids workshop. But being an artist, sometimes I feel my books may sell better in an artist alley than in a kids section. So and it's something I want to experiment with and see how it works. And I'll never give up the kids stuff. That's kind of my bread and butter. I'm a teacher. I'm tutoring. I'm doing all this digital stuff, and it's like I love working with kids. Yeah. And I can and if it wasn't getting so late, I could tell you stories even just for my first 2 days, or when camp started this week. I have some great kid stories already, and it's fun working with them. Their imagination is spectacular, but yeah, sometimes I got to focus more on the business end, and I think I have to experiment in different locations at shows than just being in the kids section.
Yeah, well, I think that could sometimes be a good thing that I do a lot, and probably it can also be, I don't want to say frustrating for people that are readers and stuff like that, but experimentation is like, that's how I learned. Even though it's like I went to Pratt for computer animation. I didn't go for illustration or writing, so much of what I've learned, and I still feel like experience is the best teacher.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, I just throw my stuff. That's how I started doing conventions. I was just like, all right, buy a table. Let's do this. Sometimes I think experimentation, even in a limited way, is great for growth. Then it's how you learn things.
Yeah. So, let's wrap up with that. And the only reason why, because, we're both on the East Coast here. It's 10 o'clock. I have to get up early for a job. That if I didn't have to wake up in the morning for a job, I could be talking to you till midnight tonight and not have an issue with it.
No, I know. Well, actually, you're kind of lucky in this way. So when school was actually in physically in session, I would wake up at 5 to do my writing before. Yeah, because my district starts at 7:45. I got to sign in.
Yeah.
But so I wanted to get at least an hour and a half of writing in and a little reading, and have my coffee because I love my coffee in the morning.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
But yeah, since the lockdown and we were starting later, I haven't been getting up that as early. So usually 10 o'clock is when I went to bed. I was like, almost religiously. So my eyes are still open right now, but I understand what you're saying. And I still, like I said, I don't know how it is for the viewer. Like, I don't know who the hell could sit. I'm sorry. I don't know who could sit through an hour and a half listening to me talk to you.
I've enjoyed it. So
yeah, no, I have too. That's the thing. But I almost feel like they're just flies on the wall of my phone conversation.
Well, this is definitely a part 1 interview. All right.
I'll come back again.
I'll bring you back maybe in sometime in July, and we'll do a part 2.
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds good. All right.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna let you go. Just hang out for a minute. I'm gonna put you backstage, say my goodbyes, and I just want to, thank you again for coming on. But really, it has been a blast for me. I want to say this publicly to everybody. And I've said this to other people before. I really enjoy talking with other creative people. Our job is very it's very much being alone. It's a very solitary career, being artists. And some of us don't even like to go out and see people. I'm one of those people a little bit, but when I get to talk to people like you and certain other creators that I've talked to, it's really inspiring to, based on what you've just done, to inspire me to be like, I want to kind of end this show so I can work on my children's book, or I want to end to do this. I know I'm ending to go to bed right now. It's like I want to stay up and work. I want to stay up and be creative, because it's just like you have that conversation and it's like, wow, I'm on the right track, or I know I should be doing more of this, and it's just like it energizes me. Yeah,
well, and I'll make this quick. So but that's part of the reason I do conventions. I mean, I know this sounds kind of, counterintuitive, but money is like one of the last things, and even promotion is still secondary to meeting fans and meeting other creators.
Yeah,
because that I find is more energizing than anything else. I can sit home and get the work done. I can promote on social media. I'm trying to get better at promoting and making sales online, but I can't get the one-on-one with the fans or the other creators except by doing the shows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because we're all vampires and we don't see the sun.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. I'm going to put you backstage for a minute.
Okay.
I hope everyone who watched enjoyed listening to you, because I sure did.
Yeah, I hope so. If not, I am so sorry to put you through this pain.
All right. Thanks again. Everybody, I really do hope you enjoyed tonight. I really had a lot of fun. I really do wish I could go longer. You can see for the last time scrolling through is JM's social media stuff. I actually put gentlemanCthulhu.com in the notes, as well as what was the other one I did? And now that he's not on, I'm not going to say it properly. Was it Chadinia? I'm sorry, Chadinia.com. He's probably laughing. I see his face. He's not kidding. I'm sorry. I am so sorry, but it's in the message. It's in the notes, not notes. The comments. Please go to his websites. Please check out his work. Follow him on social media. You can tell he's a fantastic guy here. He creates fantastic work, and everyone should be owning a piece of it. So, everybody, thanks again for tuning in tonight. I will be back next week with another guest. There will be an Incredit chat later this week that Mike will be on. I'm not going to be on Thursday night with him. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys later. Have a great night.